BlogTalk Radio.
Welcome. This is Andy Marino, and today we have an expert in food safety issues in transportation and with a food auditor, Roy Costa. Roy is the owner and establisher of Environmental Health Associates, a full-service environmental health consulting firm, creating disease control programs, developing innovative products, conducting audits, and providing training for an increasing number of domestic and international clients. Roy, I will introduce you now. Roy, welcome to the program.
All right, thanks, Andy. Nice to be with you.
Well, before we get into our topic of food safety issues in transportation with a food auditor, I was wondering if you could introduce yourself and give us a little background.
Sure. My name is Roy Costa. I'm a registered sanitarian, and I've been practicing in the food safety realm for the last 32 years or so. I've got a broad background, regulatory work for about 22 years in various health departments. And I've got an academic background, as you might expect, with about 15 years teaching experience at the Walt Disney Center for Hospitality and Culinary Arts in Orlando. I've got a degree in biology. I've got a master's in health services management and an M.B.A. So that's kind of me in a nutshell there.
Outstanding. You know, Roy, as we look at the challenge of food contamination, it clearly is widespread, and we've had recent recalls and we've had recent outbreaks which have alerted the public to different challenges with food. The food industry itself shares a common responsibility to share the safety of food as it passes through each link in the supply chain. Today we're going to be chatting about the transportation sector and those linkages and how perhaps in the past they've been unappreciated food safety control points. Could you chat with us just for a minute about, in general, transportation and food safety?
Sure. Well, you know, a lot of food moves by trucks. I mean, everybody has seen these refrigerated trailers on the road and tankers of all types. And probably the majority of the local food deliveries are done by trucks as well. So we've got the interstate commerce, we have the intrastate commerce, and then we have the local commerce moving by trucks. So trucks play a real important part in getting the products around, and they're subject to certain problems. Probably the most critical thing is that no one really has the authority to go on board the truck and inspect for cleanliness or food safety issues, at least as far as a government oversight. The trucks will pass through agricultural checkpoints, and they will check for certain things from the standpoint of the state regulations on, you know, moving food across borders. But generally when it comes to sanitation and hygiene, if they find a problem, they've got to call a health department person in, and that person may or not have jurisdiction until that truck reaches its destination. So it is a linkage in the food safety system that is not very well controlled. We have truckers that will haul all sorts of materials, including chemicals and fertilizer and lumber and, you just name it, and then go pick up food. Now, typically the food is in packages, but not always. Sometimes they're in bins. And so there's an exposure issue there just to contaminants. The other part of the problem is temperature control. Some trucks, especially local deliveries, may be transporting food that should be refrigerated in unrefrigerated trucks. Again, authorities don't really have the authority to put a stop to that type of thing, even though they'd like to. So some of this problem falls back on the food safety auditor who might be doing an inspection on a facility or an audit, and then have to take a look at the trucks that are in the bays to determine their cleanliness and whether or not they're being pre-cooled for the purpose of loading products that are temperature sensitive. So I've seen quite a bit of problems in that regard. The industry is trying its best, that's the food industry, to control what they can when trucks pull in to either drop off food or to load food. But a lot more work needs to be done.
Wonderful. You mentioned, Roy, work on the part of food inspectors and auditors. Can you chat for a minute about HACCP, explaining what that is?
Sure. Well,
to cleaning food transportation vehicles. I understand you were involved in a study on that.
Yeah, we did a study to determine the efficacy of cleaning using a cleaning compound that was an acidic wash. And we found that we could get microbial counts down pretty close to what is acceptable for a food contact surface, but not quite. As you can imagine, the aluminum beds of these trucks have a lot of nooks and crannies and rivets, etc., that really are probably not the best surfaces for food to come in contact with. But obviously, we don't expect food to come in contact with them. So we were able to demonstrate that a process using an acid wash not only gets the truck bed visually clean, removing the odors, lifting off the surface contamination, but also provides a margin of safety. Now, the way auditors that are conducting a facility audit approach the trucks that are sitting in the bays, they do a number of things. Number one, they look at the documentation that the facility is maintaining. Each and every truck pulling in and each and every truck pulling out is supposed to be inspected by the facility. So the auditor is there as they are for most things, as a cross-check to make sure the facility is controlling that aspect and is sending trucks away to be cleaned when they're either pulling in with product and are dirty or are getting ready to load and they find that they're dirty from the last haul. And then the auditor should be walking on these vehicles with a flashlight, of course, because they're generally dark, and poking around in there and looking for spillage, looking for any obvious signs of any kind of spillage that might be chemical in nature, and also for foreign objects. And we find quite a bit of nails, dirt, plastic, broken glass, even sometimes on these trucks. We also find truck drivers doing, their own odor control by spreading coffee grinds on trucks. This actually does help with the odors, but it's not what we want. And there are a lot of other peculiarities here with the trucking industry. So until FDA, through the Food Safety Modernization Act, really exercises its authority, and it does have that built into the language of the new act, we're going to have hit and miss controls. As I say, only when the facility pulls into or the truck pulls into a facility that has a food safety program that requires somebody to check it out, that's about the only time these things get caught. The other thing that the facilities are looking for that the auditor has to be aware of is monitoring the temperature control before they load the truck with temperature-sensitive product. So there's actually supposed to be a pre-cooling stage for a truck. The foreman or whoever on the loading dock responsible